What's up, everybody? It is time to have a discussion about Borrachinha Paulo the Eraser Costa following his loss at UFC 302 against Sean Strickland, right? I first want to mention and point out Paulo Costa. The reason I'm not making this video because Costa's coming off of 2 L's against Sean Strickland and Robert Whittaker, right? This has been something that's I've noticed and has kind of accumulated over the past few fights, and he has been in there with 2 top guys in the division, right? It's not like he was fighting scrubs or cans or bums or anything like that. I mean, Robert Whittaker, former champion, Sean Strickland, former champion, 2 guys that basically specific style matchups give them issues. Both of those guys could still be a champion at this point. So it's not like Costa was in there against bad competition. We have that out of the way. It is very apparent to me that something has shifted and changed inside of either the mindset of Paulo Costa and something to do with his camp and coaching. And what we're going to do in this video, I'm going to point out, one, what I think is going on with Costa and how we can fix this, right? And I'm first going to make an analogy. So bear with me here. I'm a football guy, right? And whenever you see a run-heavy approach team, right, they love to pound the football, right? They're usually a big physical team that loves to come downhill. They love to, to smack you in the mouth and just make you play a dirty, gritty type of game. Well, just because you get shut out one time and you lose a game doesn't mean that the next game you're going to abandon ship. You're going to take personnel that doesn't fit a spread style system and all of a sudden go 5 wide and start throwing the ball all over the field, because it's probably not going to work out too well for you because you don't have the skill set on your offense to be able to do that. That's exactly what we're seeing with Paulo Costa right now. Listen, Paulo Costa, when he first bursted onto the scene inside the UFC, right? It's hard to be there for every single fighter when they first come onto the scene inside the UFC. We can't always be there when these big names first start. It'd be kind of hard to be a fan of all of them, right? So, but Paulo Costa, fortunate for me, has been one of the guys that I've watched ever since he came into UFC, dating back to his debut against McClellan. And I've just watched this guy. I watched every single fight of Costa inside the UFC. There has been a huge shift in his approach to fights and his style overall. Now, while he has gained more speed, I would say, more athletic ability, and maybe a little bit more elusiveness, he is very much compromising his ability to win fights in his new approach to fighting, right? And this all dates back to when we look at the McClellan matchup, goes out there against Bomboje, Johnny Hendricks, Uriah Hall, Yoel Romero. What did we see in all of those fights with Paulo Costa? We saw a guy that took the center right away, would constantly push forward, very rarely would move backwards at all. Everything was downhill pushing forward. Now, I know you could sit there and say, well, the competition gets better when you get up there higher into the division and the weight classes and you fight guys with better movement, higher fight IQ, and all of those things are very valid points. But it's very noticeable to me that we used to have Costa, who was that run-heavy offense, who wanted to smack you in the mouth, come downhill, not give you room to breathe, dig to the body, dig upstairs, hard kicks to the body, and just melt you and not give you any space to operate. To now, we see a guy who wants that high-flying offense. He wants to be pretty. He wants to sit on the outside. He wants to dance around. He's okay taking a backward step. He's moving a lot more laterally. You saw him on his bike for 25 minutes against Sean Strickland, where I'm not here to say that he just needs to walk forward like a heavy bag and just walk forward on people and not take a backward step. That's not what I'm saying at all, right? You want to be cutting angles. You want to prioritize your health as much as you can as a fighter, but by the same token, you can't get away from what you were doing so well just because something bad happened along the way. And this really comes down to that loss to Israel Adesanya. We have not seen the same Paulo Costa since the Izzy fight. I mean, this is a guy that went out there against virtually a prime Yoel Romero and acted like Yoel Romero had no power and wasn't dangerous at all. I mean, the minute the bell sounded, Paulo Costa took the center right away, was backing up Yoel Romero up to the fence, letting his hands go, letting those kicks go. I mean, we saw kicks that were reshaping Yoel Romero's face. I don't know how he wasn't able to finish Yoel Romero. I'm not saying bad on Costa, just a testament to the durability of Yoel Romero. So from what we saw from Costa, this was a man that was destroying people. He was destroying people. You saw him break Uriah Hall. You saw him in there. I mean, the Johnny Hendricks matchup should have never have taken place. Those guys looked like they were separated by 4 different weight classes. Paulo Costa looked enormous compared to Johnny Hendricks, and that was not even close. And yes, they did give him, some favorable matchups early on. But ever since the Adesanya fight, we've just seen a different approach from Paulo Costa. And he comes out after the Izzy fight, takes some time away, comes back against Marvin Vettori. There was an issue where he's missing weight. The fight gets moved to 205. And we kind of saw an aggressive Costa in the first round. And then he started to get tired a little bit. And then he started to get a second wind. And I think Paulo Costa is struggling to believe in the gas tank. He's struggling to have that confidence in himself that, you know what, for 15 or 25 minutes, I can cut loose at times and be okay in terms of my cardio, in terms of the gas tank. And I think it's something that just weighs so heavily on his mind that he's afraid to open up. Because if you let's even move past the Vettori fight. I want to focus on the Luke Rockhold, Robert Whittaker, and Sean Strickland fights. The Luke Rockhold fight, we kind of saw a little bit of the older Paulo Costa. And I know that wasn't a great performance by Costa, so to speak, right? Luke Rockhold looked like a guy who was kind of questioning at times if he still wanted to be in there. You'd see him after the round just kind of like, like almost get me out of here is kind of what his body language was saying. But nonetheless, Costa still fought really well. He defended the takedowns well. He made Rockhold pay for shooting takedowns. He was moving forward. He was implementing some of those old tactics of Paulo Costa. So, okay, he goes out there. It's maybe not the most impressive thing, but he gets a win over Luke Rockhold. Then he goes out there against Robert Whittaker. It was the polar opposite of Paulo Costa that we're used to seeing. And I even was on the record saying that I think that was one of the best versions of Costa that we saw against Robert Whittaker because he was nimble, he was fast, his movement was great, and the way he was sliding in and out was awesome. But we saw him in the first round start to pressure Robert Whittaker. And it just seems to me that as of late, Paulo Costa has completely gotten away from what got him to the dance. He's completely forgetting about what made him that knockout artist that everyone wants to talk about. And I've been on the record saying, guys, like Paulo Costa is one of the most entertaining guys for me to watch when he's on. I really enjoy watching Costa fight. I think he has a great personality, and he's built a brand for himself now with the whole secret juice and being funny and entertaining to where whether he wins or loses, people are going to tune in and watch this guy fight. But the issue for me is he's too settled in on being like a point fighter and sitting on the outside and just kind of moving around and trying to be this pretty fighter where it's like, that's not who you are, Paulo Costa. Like, I appreciate the fact that he has gotten a little bit faster. He is very explosive, and the way that, he's a lot more athletic than he once was, where he was flat-footed and kind of like stumbling over his own feet at times and just didn't seem like he was the most coordinated, to now he's moving in and out of range, and it's like, okay, well, that's great. But he no longer pushes the pace. He no longer digs his feet in to stand in and give himself a chance. Like, could you have imagined that Paulo Costa would have been on the back foot, scooting around the fence, literally, for 25 minutes against Sean Strickland? Now, I picked Strickland to win the fight, and I said Sean Strickland could beat Paulo Costa with a jab and a front kick, and people got upset about that. And that's exactly what happened, because Paulo Costa's skill set doesn't trouble someone like Sean Strickland. He doesn't have enough tools to trouble Strickland. And one of the issues with Costa, this new style change to me isn't for the best. It's not for the best, and it doesn't give him a shot to be able to put people away. I understand the outside the wheel kick moment, right? That was reminiscent to me of the Leon Edwards-Nate Diaz thing. I'm a huge Nate Diaz fan. Leon Edwards was in complete control of the fight until a shot landed. Same thing as Costa against Whittaker. Now, I will say this. Paulo Costa was having some moments in the fight with Robert Whittaker. But nonetheless, this is not the same guy, and he has got to get back to his roots. He even made a video recently, a post on social media saying, look, I got to get back to what I was doing before. I have to move forward. I have to focus on trying to finish people and knock people out. Now, he said this before after losing to Izzy, goes out there against Marvin Vettori, and we just didn't see the same guy. And I just think that Paulo Costa, ever since the Adesanya fight, there's one, I think he's a little shy because of the gas tank, number one, because the guy cuts a lot of weight to make 185. And people are like, well, you should just move up to light heavyweight. And it's like, well, but him at light heavyweight, he's not that big at light heavyweight. He just isn't. And the way that his style is and just the way things line up, he's got a 72-inch reach, which is T-Rex arms, like Izzy said. And that's kind of an issue for Costa in and of itself. But if we look at what we've seen in his past two outings, we have seen some moments where, yes, he's a lot more technical. He's a lot more careful, but at what cost? Because now he's losing on the judges' scorecards. Whereas before, when he would dig his feet in and not be so accepting to move backwards, when he would stand his ground and push forward and try to trap people up against the fence, he gives himself a much better chance at winning these fights. The volume has went down. That guy that used to just tee off on people and throw shots to the body, come upstairs with those big hard hooks, it has disappeared. And it seems to me over the past few fights, it has lessened and lessened and lessened. Now, granted, again, I understand Sean Strickland, Robert Whittaker. It's great competition. It's great competition. These are two of the top guys in the entire weight class. I think it's time for Paulo Costa. I don't know if he needs new coaches. I don't know if they need to sit down and discuss game planning and tactics together. They've got to figure this out. He's got to get back to his old ways in a way. I know he's a little more nuanced now, a little more technical, a little bit more with the in and out movement. He's got to get back to being willing to dig his feet in and push forward, because if he doesn't, he's going to be on the wrong side of some of these judges' scorecards, because as much as Costa has improved in terms of the athletic side of things, he doesn't do well fighting backwards. He doesn't do well fighting backwards, and he's now putting himself in a position to where he's lost 2 in a row. I'd like to see him get a layup at this point, right? He's a guy that people like watching. He's exciting. Give him a Roman Dolidze-like matchup, maybe a Kevin Holland. I would even say Dolidze, because I don't think Dolidze can take him down, and Paulo Costa should be able to outstrike him and bully him around in there all day long. They got to get Costa a win, make it a 3-round fight, give him a guy like Dolidze, get him back in the win column, because there's no doubt about it. When he is on, when he is focused, when he is pushing forward and being that aggressive guy that we like to watch, Paulo Costa is a very entertaining fighter to watch. And I know people want to make it out as he's some sort of knockout artist, where even back when he was running through guys when he got into the UFC, it was accumulation of damage. He's more of a volume-based puncher that does have good power, and he has outstanding pop in his kicks. But we have got to see Paulo Costa get back to being that aggressive, pushing the pace, moving forward pressure style of fighter, because if he does that, he's going to give himself a much better chance. And if he would have did that against Robert Whittaker, if he would have did that against Sean Strickland, I'm not saying he would have won, but he would have given himself a much better chance in those fights. And I thought he looked good in moments against Whittaker. I thought he looked good in moments against Sean Strickland. But if he digs his feet in, stands his ground, I think Paulo Costa does a lot better, but something has to change in terms of the strategy, preparation, and the mindset. They got to get him back into the mindset of let's move forward, let's look to put people away, not sit there and try to play the points game. But I want to hear from you all down in the comments. Like this video, comment your thoughts down below. Do you agree with me? Subscribe to the channel, help your boy out. I appreciate you all. See you next time.